Hey everybody, wagwan, wagwan. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Make sure my mic turn up real loud. How is everybody doing? How is everybody doing? Do you see I changed the logo just a little bit? I got some feedback from one of my graduates who said that there's another organization called Jamaicans for Justice, and it's a organization that has a bit of a rogue history, so I didn't have to change it. So I just take out the 4 and put the 4 instead, um, just to give it a different twist. So it's saying that my connection is. All right, can you guys all hear me? Brilliant. Okay, Social Spectator says that they can. Lovely. All right, let me big up everybody in the classroom before we get started. Because this is a serious something, and I don't understand how people don't realize it's a serious something this a go on. And it is definitely going to have an effect across the rest of the world if we just sit quietly on this. And I'm really wondering if America is going to take this lying down or if they've got literally no choice. Are you guys running a democracy at all, or is this some kind of you know rogue government that you've got going on over there that doesn't respect diversity or culture or history at all? um but anyway, let me start with bigging up people in the classroom, and then we're gonna go into it. Please like up the live, share the live. I want this information to go far and wide. We're also going to go into the whole birthright citizenship thing and how that has represented itself, despite a week ago we heard about a judge that was blocking um, the decision of Trump, or the request of Trump to end birthright citizenship. It's now been represented. So we're going to go into the details about that as well. But anyway, Tatiana, good morning. Big up yourself, Don Marencha Noriax, good evening. KITYJ J Empress, big up yourself. Pottinger Naturals, big up yourself. It is what it is. Wagwan. Mel Isaacs, big up yourself. Gelson Nice, big up yourself. Anne Marie, big up yourself. Missionary, big up yourself. Social Spectator, Dej B, Olivine Campbell. You're still here struggling with lots of pain. I'm so sorry to hear that, girl. So nice, boy. Girl, you need to get yourself some soursop leaf, man. Drink some soursop leaf tea. Big up yourself. Nothing but lovers. What you saying? Trump Black History Month? Yeah, literally, this was a few hours ago. It's yeah, it's happened. Um, locked in from Florida. Big up yourself. Okay, I see that. Vanessa, what's up, my Queen Drea, big up yourself. Inca, good evening. NWO in full effect. I mean, I tell you, people. Now, as you know, your Black History Month is supposed to start tomorrow, right? You guys are supposed to start celebrating Black History Month tomorrow. And Black History Month is in February in the United States because it coincides with the birthday of Abraham Lincoln, which is on the 12th of February, and Frederick Douglass, which is on the 14th. Both people whom Black communities have celebrated since the late 19th century. It really is about observing and commemorating everything that's known as African American history. So it has now it's now been decided by a Pentagon agency to pause all celebrations for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Black History Month, and several other significant events that mark diversity in the United States of America. So according to this article, that has come out. The Defense Department's intelligence agency has paused observations on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Pride Month, Holocaust Day remembrance, and other cultural and to President Trump's ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, remember when we had that crash yesterday, we saw comments going out from Brent. At the end of the day, this is as a result of an employee that was brought in under diversity, equality, and inclusion. And that if this individual was not brought up, employed under such circumstances, he believes that the brightest and the most intelligent would have avoided the deaths of those people. Now, I do believe that that is such an extremist perspective, because it suggests that had this person not been employed and it was somebody who, was even more clever, that it could have been avoided. Now, who to tell if the person that was employed under that category wasn't an extremely clever pilot? It was just bizarre to me. The argument just sounded like some playground thing. I'm not gonna lie. It didn't sound well thought out. It sounded like it was full of stereotype, full of prejudice, and rather an indirect attack on immigrants. I'm not gonna lie. That's what it sounded like, because this man has now turned around and paused all your celebrations. Now, there's a list of the agencies that the celebrations will be paused for. I'm going to, a list of events that the agency is pausing the celebration for. You're not going to be having Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Black History Month is going to be paused. There'll be no Women's History Month. Holocaust Remembrance Day will be paused. Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month will be paused. LGBTQ Pride Month and all them pride festivals and carnivals will be paused. Juneteenth will be no more. Women's Equality Day will be paused. National Hispanic Heritage Month will be paused. National Disability Employment Awareness Month will be paused. National American Indian Heritage Month will be paused. In the memo, which was confirmed as authentic by a U.S. official, the pause was initiated by the DIA, which is the Defense Intelligence Agency. Okay? And it does appear not to be a policy across the Defense Department, but already people have started to pull back on celebrations. There's also a pause on special observances hosted throughout the year. Now, even though the celebrations like Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth are included, the change are not going to affect having national holidays. So you're going to still have the holidays, but you just can't celebrate. Okay? You can't have no special events and funding for that. Federal agencies have struggled to interpret Trump's January 20th executive order ending DEI programs across the government. They've taken a broad approach due to the lack of clear guidance from the White House on how to comply. So we now know that Facebook, Elon Musk on the X, a few other large organizations have pulled their equal opportunities policies and equal opportunities employment pathways have also gone. Um, all the LGBTQ rainbow thing, them gone. All right, then, leg, you see it. All right, gone. You hear what me I say? So, while we, on the one hand, are getting really preoccupied with immigration, which is a big deal, especially for us as Jamaicans in the diaspora, we know, say, we have our brothers and sisters in America, some of whom are undocumented or illegal. Trump is attacking this thing from different angles, and shutting down diversity across the board and its representation in history. In other words, it's almost as if man is rewriting American history right face. And I'm wondering, is the American society going to sit like eggs and do nothing about this? Surely this is a reason for civil unrest. I have never seen any kind of leadership interfere with these things. Now, I'm just gonna highlight the importance of why it is that you actually celebrate MLK Day to begin with. So, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is usually observed annually on the third Monday in January. It commemorates the life and work of Dr. King, who is a Baptist minister and prominent leader in the American civil rights movement. People are encouraged to use the day to reflect on the principles of racial equality and nonviolent social change as led in the philosophies of Dr. King. The holiday is typically observed with events such as marches and rallies. And those of you who've ever watched every single Martin Luther King, movie, the peaceful protest was always a major feature of how he stood up for human rights of Black people. So marches and rallies were kind of like an echoing of that example that was set. He he came to the fore of the civil rights movement in 1955 with the Montgomery bus boycott that followed the arrest of Rosa Parks. This man's erasing all the recognition of this. An African American woman who had violated the city's racial segregation ordinances when she refused to give her seat on a bus to a white passenger. Now, King promoted the use of nonviolence to bring an end to racial division in the United States. He received the Nobel Prize for Peace for his efforts despite his assassination later on in 1968. So the efforts to create a national holiday honoring King began soon after him losing his life. Although legislation for a federal holiday itself was not passed until 1983. So this is over 20 years of work in order to allow for the nationwide observance of the holiday. And even though it's passed in 1983, America never really got to celebrate it until 1986. So when we're talking about a significant day, we mean it's a significant day that is really marking assimilation, equality of rights, Black people being recognized as equal citizens in the United States and their generations thereof. And I cannot understand how your president can just erase this on an order. On an order. Of course, that's what he's trying to do. Let me just show this comment. He's heading to trying to change the Constitution. And the Supreme Court is already stopped in his favor. And I'm going to show you that indeed the Supreme Court is leaning towards this man. Because, when we go into the birthright situation, then you'll see for yourself that I think a lot of this is going to unravel right in front of your eyes. And people are going to be caught unawares by the time it's all done, because he's operating this on a very high end scale. Um, Almost like what you would say, he's taking it to the very top and breaking it down. And by the time the masses get hold of it, the legal terms and conditions would have already been signed and underlined, and there'll be nothing they can do. This is not done with the consultation of the public. Now, as much as he's executing this now, is he far off from what he proposed? No, he isn't, because he has always said that making America great again involved America for Americans. But when people listen to the rhetoric, including the black people who voted for this man, they were not ready. I'm pretty certain a lot of them are not ready for what this man is doing, because that is a heavily loaded rhetoric, and it is full of anti migrants, anti ethnic minority, anti cultural differences, and giving that any recognition, all of that, because he's wanting a society that's homogenous in a way that cultural backgrounds that basically mark differences that are unique and ought to be respected. He wants to wipe all of that away. He wants all of that gone. So your entire fabric of community is just a bunch of Americans with nothing specific about your history that makes each individual unique, that adds to a fabric of culture. No, he wants all that wiped away. He wants all of that wiped away. And that's pretty serious. So on Wednesday, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directed staff to create a DEI task force to ensure no DEI programs remain in the Pentagon. That's on Wednesday here. Okay? We're not joking around, Hegseth said in an interview Wednesday with Fox News. There's no changing of names or softly manipulating something. DEI is gone. So, in other words, just listening to the language of that, Americans, the land of the free, you've got no flipping choice. You've got absolutely no choice at all. It's gone. The man make you know straight. Him now muck about him now talk through two side of him out. Him tell you straight up. So no, it gone. And there's nothing you can do. It gone. You know? In response to a query from the AP about the memo, the DIA said late Wednesday it is working with the Department of Defense to fully implement all executive orders and administration guidance in a timely manner. As we receive additional guidance, we will continue to update our internal guidance. The other annual events listed in the DIA memo are Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, National American Indian Heritage Month. And now we're talking about the authentic Americans, for them celebration wipe out, There's not even that many of them, for goodness sake. National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So disabled people have no particular recognition for their contribution to American society, despite their challenges. No. Women's Equality Day and Women's History Month. So all the recognition of women who have stepped into industries, positions and ranks that were once only held for men, you can no longer celebrate that. You can no longer acknowledge it, as though there wasn't a whole fight for women to even vote. Come on. This is extreme. It is extreme. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, was asked at a briefing Tuesday whether Black History Month would cease to be celebrated. As far as I know, this White House certainly still intends to celebrate, and we will continue to celebrate American history and the contributions that all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed, have made to our great country, she said. However, many observances have been paused across the country as a reaction to what has gone to Pentagon. So she attacked through one side of her mouth because that's about pacifying the public. But in reality, what is happening is that funding is being pulled that would have been given to organizations that were voluntary sector organizations to celebrate these events. Funding is being pulled. So if the funding being pulled, how the hell are they going to celebrate like the White House? Now, I don't know what kind of, how does America feel? Can somebody please tell me, those of you who are in the States, what is the atmosphere like as a migrant? Because surely you must be feeling some pinch. Surely you must be feeling some pinch. It cannot feel normal over there. Because listening to all of this, it almost brings Hitler to mind. I'm not going to lie, that is how it feels. From here. My granny always tell me when digging how to do. I am going to sit back from the British side to see the knock-on effect of this, because what I'm trying to explain to people who are across the diaspora is that if Trump gets away with things like this and he creates an entire model of what a totally new model of what a first world leading nation is supposed to look like, what patriotism is supposed to look like, you can imagine that other first world countries are going to follow suit. The UK is going to step up and start doing it. The EU is going to start doing it. You're going to have it everywhere. Because I can assure you also that there is an atmosphere of annoyance and fed upness from English people over here, in that they're sick and tired of all these differences. I did give you the example of the little boy referring to the Muslim people as letterboxes, because his family has a whole disdain for them wearing the burqa. There is a scorn for the difference, and while it is understandable that when that difference becomes overwhelming, some English people in different communities feel like a minority in what they consider to be their own country, that can't be nice. That has to do with how government allocates housing and the population of migrants and refugees when they enter. Because those migrants and refugees that attach themselves to public housing, they tend to shove them all into one pocket and create these wide scale ghettos that English people become a minority in. Yes? So this has to do with the racism that's institutionalized, because middle class white people don't want to mix with minorities. So they stay, and I'm sure it's the same in America. I'm sure it's the same. That you've got entire communities where almost every other house is a Yadi or a African or a Italian. When we look at the Godfather movie, yeah, the Italians literally had entire blocks where they ran businesses and lived amongst each other. And that's because they were all in, social housing. And that's where the government stick them. And in between that, you have, sprinklings of white Americans. And then they start to resent being surrounded by foreigners and complain that America's not America again. It's all these damn foreigners everywhere. It's the same here in the UK. It's no different. So These other first world nations are not even going to interfere with what he's doing. Me, I'm telling you that, them are going to step back and watch. Because deep down, they want this. You British people, you think, say, England is happy that you have a carnival in a Notting Hill every year? You think that the Caribbean festivals and stuff that are held in Manchester, Birmingham, London, you think their councils enjoy spending money on that? And then the way they start to advertise it is that these events have got a high propensity for knife crime. Hmm? They're not happy on it. They're just doing it to appease. But you see, if Trump can prove that he can silence minorities on this issue and get away with it, you're going to see what God gonna serve. It's going to roll out all about the place. It's going to be everywhere. And I am going to wonder and I'm going to ponder if the Americans are going to sit back. All those African Americans, descendants of Black Panthers, Pan-Africanists, are you all going to sit back and allow this to take place? That's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy to me. Of course, Tatiana. Hmm? The amount of time they try to ban carnival. No, this is the difference though. This is the difference, potential naturals, between this president and the previous. The previous would be lenient according to the, if there's civil unrest, he'll try to squash that quick and fast and appease. What Donald Trump will do, and he has shown that he has the propensity to do that, is to put into place some severe consequences if you go against it. This man isn't just going to say it's banned and allow it, right? The fines are going to be heavy. The arrests are going to be heavy. People are going to get thrown in jail. It's not going to be nice. So he's not going to, yes, high anxiety, very distressful. Oh, yes, I saw that salute. That salute was crazy. That salute was crazy. I was like, but ain't that a Hitler salute? What is going on here? Is what really a guan? And then now, when I took a look at the birthright citizenship for unqualified people and unqualified kids, he's not backing down. He's not backing down on that either. So anyway, let me finish this off before I go into that, because that also heavily affects immigrants. And I know that a lot of our Jamaicans have traveled abroad hoping that them have a baby there and that's going to secure their stay. So there's more to come on that as well. So according to NBC News, I don't want to repeat the same things in this article. Last week, the Justice Department sent a memo to staff announcing the closure of all its DEI programs, saying specifically that these programs, now this is the motif, this is the argument that Trump is presenting to the institutions and also to the public, that all of these programs, Black History Month, Martin Luther King Day, all of these divide Americans by race, waste taxpayer dollars, and results in shameful discrimination. Listen, it results in shameful discrimination. On his first day in office, Trump signed an executive order that outlined the termination of all discriminatory programs. So he's now calling diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs as discriminatory. He has now made such programs and the DEI department illegal. And that includes all the mandates, policies, programs, preferences, and activities in the federal government that was under the DEI. So if they execute these, it would be considered a breach of law. In his executive order. And I don't know if being cancelled. Employee resource groups, or ERGs, which exist in both the public and private sectors, are voluntary employee-led groups for people with similar backgrounds or life experiences. Common groups includes ones for Native Americans, LGBTQ people, Black employees, women and veterans, among others. Other agencies have so this is voluntary, right? And they're people who are hired to show empathy, to ensure that there is a trust in systems from minority groups or groups that are more likely to be excluded. These are people who are active in the community, building relationships between institutions and the public, acting as a conduit of communication, translators. All of those people have got to cease. So you come in and you don't speak that language, and there isn't a member of staff who's got time or willing to translate to say, listen, I've got a child in the car who's about to lose her 3 points. I'm breaking up a lot. Can you guys hear me? No sound, they're saying. Hold on a minute. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, guys? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now. I don't know what happened to the sound. Can you hear me now, guys? Give me a thumbs up. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to carry on because I'm on a rant here. And so I was saying that the president has basically disbanded these members of staff who act as a conduit of communication between these minority communities or vulnerable communities at risk of exclusion in order to build bridges of trust between these people and institutions or systems. It's also about ensuring that there is clear communication about the wants and needs of these community members to service industries. So you can be going into the hospital and you have got a language barrier. You could rely on one of these people to actually translate what you've got to say. You may have a complaint where you want to, say that you've been discriminated against because of your gender, because of your sexuality, whatever. One of these people could be there as a mediator. All of that's gone. You're on your own. You understand? You're going to end up talking to a Karen about how you're being treated differently because you're black. How, because as a black female, you're expected to have a higher pain threshold than everybody else, and you've been trying to get yourself some medication for the pain you're experiencing, and you're being ignored. and you're being given doses that are, paracetamol when you need something else because you're black, you're supposed to be able to bear it. So you got nobody who understands where you're coming from. You're gonna end up with some Karen going, "Ma'am, you're just complaining for no reason. We gave you paracetamol because that's all you need." Yeah, they've been fired. Let me show this comment. That's pretty serious. DI department employees have all been fired. I'm a federal employee and pretty much have a front seat to this. It's absolutely sad and scary. Listen, I was not going to come live today, guys. I was not. I had no intention of doing it. But when I saw this, I said, my graduates, you need to wake up. This I know something where we supposed to push under the carpet and go and la da, like said, nothing not going to affect us. If this stuff goes unchecked, it is going to have a ripple effect in different migrant communities across the globe. Don't think it's going to just stop with Trump. Because a lot of people are thinking, why I have to use your name? Why you have to use my name? So I'm carried. Not that kind of Karen. You understand? But I'm just saying that this is crazy, right? So, common groups include ones for Native Americans, LGBTQ people, Black employees, women, and veterans, among others. Other agencies have also ended their ERGs, including DOJ Pride, the Justice Department's LGBTQ employee resource group that has been around for 30 years. During a press briefing on Friday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded to a question from the NBC News about whether Trump plans to keep the tradition and sign a proclamation about Black History Month ahead of its start on Saturday. The president looks forward to signing a proclamation celebrating Black History Month. I actually spoke with our great staff secretary. It's in the works of being approved and it's going to be ready for the president's signature to signify the beginning of that tomorrow, Leavitt said. Juneteenth was established as a federal holiday just 4 years ago during the Biden administration, also known as Emancipation Day, Black Independence Day, and Jubilee Day. The holiday commemorates the end of slavery in the U.S. This will be banned. My God. My God. Now, what they're saying is that there will be a full acknowledgement of American history on a kind of like what they call a full acknowledgement, people, is the president coming out giving a 5 minute speech about it. It runs on the airwaves. It's been acknowledged. Move on. If you get a day off from work, so be it. But there'll be no funding of any major events, nothing. All of that's pulled. It's a waste of taxpayers' dollars. So O'Neill said, so that's Andrea O'Neill, a former White House official. They help raise awareness about what communities are experiencing that may have a direct impact on how the federal government can help to better serve them. She said this kind of rollback is demoralizing to communities who finally had a seat at the table, were finally acknowledged for their contributions. When presidents and governments decide who's important, who's not, that has downstream effects that we may not fully understand yet, O'Neill said, adding that the changes implemented from the executive order will make people feel less comfortable at work and cause them to have lower morale, she added. Troy Blackwell, who worked for the Department of Commerce in the Biden administration, said a big piece of DEI involves making policies and resources accessible for underserved communities. Now, I want you to kind of understand this because I know there are some people who, it's interesting. This is what I was waiting to hear, and it's interesting that I was about to address this and PLJ happy type it. Humans need to focus on demantling racism. The mindset of it does not affect me, so I don't care. Breeds a systematic negative effect. Once you allow mistreatment of one, it will eventually reach you. Now, I'm wondering if Piaget means what I'm trying to get to. That unfortunately, racism is a very deep-seated thing. It goes beyond somebody just looking at you and calling you a racist name. Institutional racism is, in fact, the more silent and deadly version of that disease. And it's a mindset disease. And it is so deeply ingrained that you will have systems that are deliberately set up to block minorities from entering corridors of power. In other words, they are constructed in such a way that it is pitched against those who exist below the poverty belt, who have a background where they have not accessed private education, who are not, straight A, scholarship winning, Ivy League students and graduates. Listen, I'm telling you that even if you graduate with the same grades as somebody who has had that background, but you coming from the hood, that there are discriminatory practices that block you on the basis of your address so that these people get through to positions of power that you can only look at. The glass ceiling barrier is a real thing. You hear what I say? A real thing. Listen, graduates, I remember when I was a classroom teacher. And during this time, exactly, yes. I know, Valerie, but I'm focusing on that one part because I know that's one part that most of my audience can relate to. But yes, it does apply to everybody. It applies to women, it applies to disabled, it applies to LGBT, yes, all of the rainbow, it applies. But I remember when I was a classroom teacher and I was observed by Ofsted teaching. And when I was observed teaching, the Ofsted inspector in the report hailed my lesson as not only outstanding, but that my methods were unique and significant and ought to be applied across the school. The next move was that school tried to imitate or get me to train other teachers in how I was teaching. I then realized that they were trying to do so without giving me any role or any extra pay. Listen, it's a school where I was the only black teacher, right? And when I realized what they were trying to do, I literally had to have the guts to step out of that situation for my own business, create my own training package, and go back to them to tell them that I was leaving the following term to go into consultancy. When they heard that, they realized they could not afford to let me go. So then their hands were forced and they had to pay me. So I literally stepped out of the classroom into my first contract, and it has never been different after that. But because I was black, because I was a migrant, it didn't matter how good I was. They never wanted to give me the recognition. They just wanted to harvest my brain. But me a yardie, you can't take with idiot. You see me I say? You can't take with idiots. And we know them something there. And that is what a glass ceiling barrier looks like. You're going up, but you can go no further. It will apply to all of these areas of difference. Women, gays, transgender, and all the other genders. Blacks, Hispanics, Indians, disabled. You're all going to feel the pinch. All of una go feel the pinch. And I'm wondering if America is going to, if these communities in America are going to just sit down and allow it. All right, we're going to move into the situation with birthright citizenship now. Okay. Because we thought that once that judge blocked everything, then that would have been it, right? And that somehow he would have started to question whether or not he should interfere with it. You understand? But this man don't care. He still wants he still wants all of this gone, right? He still wants all of this gone. You understand? Mhm. So, for those of you who are not aware of what birthright citizenship is, I'm gonna break it down for you just a little bit, okay? I'm gonna break it down for you a little bit. It is birthright citizenship in the Constitution of America. Um, is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment specifically says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. This principle was confirmed by the 1898 Supreme Court case of United States versus Wong Kim Ark. And that clarified that children born in the US to immigrant parents are indeed citizens, regardless of their parents' immigration status. There are two different ways that you can have a birthright citizenship. You have unrestricted birthplace-based citizenship, jus soli, that's the Latin, which grants citizenship to anyone born on US soil, regardless of their parents' status, with exceptions like children of foreign diplomats. The second one is restricted ancestry-based citizenship, jus sanguinis, the Latin, extending citizenship to children who are born abroad to US citizens, providing statutory requirements are met. So, in other words, you travel to America, you have a little bit of honey, honey, sugar, sugar with an American citizen. You fly back to Jamaica, you end up with a 9-month belly. You have your baby in Jamaica. That baby could apply for their citizenship as a result of their ancestry. You understand? So for those of you who didn't understand what that is, that's what it is. Right? So now, this is what the man wants to completely get rid of. He wants it gone. He has consistently argued that this provision was originally intended to benefit the children of slaves, not to provide a blanket opportunity for individuals worldwide to claim US citizenship. He has rekindled the debate and presented the bill to Senate, which of course is where it's going to be debated, etc. It has to go through that process before it becomes, law. He has consistently argued that birthright citizenship was, if you look back, meant for children of slaves. It's not meant for the whole world to come in and pile into the United States of America. That was a statement he made in the Oval Office. Everybody coming in and totally unqualified people with, let me try and do this with a Trump accent. I wonder if I can do it. Everybody coming in and totally unqualified people with perhaps unqualified children. This wasn't meant for that, he said. Trump emphasized that birthright citizenship was meant for children of slaves and deemed it a very good and noble provision. However, he stressed that it was not intended for the global community to exploit. He says, I'm in favor of that, 100%. But it wasn't meant for the entire world to occupy the United States. The president's stance on this issue has been consistent. He has taken concrete steps to challenge the status quo. On his first day in office, he issued the executive order, although it was swiftly struck down by a federal court in Seattle. However, he has now expressed confidence. Listen, remember, I started by saying to you that the man have the Supreme Court on his side. He has now expressed confidence that the Supreme Court will ultimately rule in his favor. Republican Senators Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and Katie Britt have introduced a bill that aligns with Trump's views. The proposed legislation, titled the Birthright Citizenship Act of 2025, aims to restrict birthright citizenship to children born to illegal immigrants and non-immigrants on temporary visas. The senators argue that the current policy is a significant draw for illegal immigration and poses a threat to national security. The US is one of only 33 countries that do not impose restrictions on birthright citizenship. Okay? The Birthright Citizenship Act of 2025 proposes to redefine eligibility criteria for citizenship by birth, limiting it to children with at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen or national, a lawful permanent resident, or an alien serving in the armed forces. This legislation would only apply to children born after its enactment. Okay? So if your children are born before, like Ivani baby, everything good. But anybody who is currently pregnant will start to feel nervous and pains, belly pains by now. And anybody who had that in a plan in their head as a route way to achieving their citizenship through their child, if this gets passed, kiss that goodbye. Not gonna happen. Right? Not gonna happen. So we've got several things going on all at once. This is going to go to Senate, and then the bill is going to be assigned to a committee, and they're going to, if they release it, they're going to debate on it, vote on it, and so on. And a simple majority of 51 to 100 people votes passes that bill. Okay? And then finally, there's a conference committee made of the House and Senate members where they work out the differences between the House version of the bill and the Senate version of the bill. Okay? After which it's about making it into law as the primary function of Congress. So I'm just saying to you that it really is something that Trump seems to be confident it's going to happen. And did you guys see the presidential question and answer session where all of the top business people who were dealing with energy, oil, resources, and all of that were talking to the president and asking him questions about how things are going to pan out? And did you notice that literally almost every one of them was introduced as his friend? His good friend. His good friend. This man believes in wooing whoever it is he wants to influence. There's a whole lot of I scratch your back, you scratch mine things happening. He's already started to put an eye over onto the EU, saying the EU treats us very, very badly. Very, very badly. The fact that American cars can't come into the EU, but yet EU floods the market with theirs. He says that they're going to have to stop it because they don't treat America well. You understand? So this man is very much focused on the economic empowerment of the country. And anything he sees that puts America at risk of losing financially is going to go. He's not interested in nurturing a society. He wants a society of Americans who stand up and be accounted for, no matter how your mental health is, no matter what emotional state you're in. You're going to pull your weight or you go behind. You are not going to be given an interview because that company needs a token black. Okay? They're not going to take a second look at the surnames that are on, or the first names that are on those applications anymore. They're going to hire all the Toms, the Johns, the Janes, and they're going to not hire any of the Justinas, the Tamiqua, the Lorenzos. Thank you so much. You know, they do this all the time. I don't know why they do this. So many of you watching, can you please like up the live? You're taking in the information, you're getting all of the knowledge, and all we ask is that you like up the live to bump up the algorithm. That is all we ask. That is all we ask, and that's the least that you guys can do. And then if I make people have to beg on for like up your live. Okay, so here we've got somebody here talking about it. The birthright citizenship was meant for the American Negro people and her descendants only. It was never meant to abuse the laws of the land with illegal immigrants ciphering resources meant for us. No, I totally agree with you. I know that you are a pro-Trump supporter. It's not meant to be exploited. And I do know that people do exploit it. That there are people who come into the country and they literally just come there to have a baby to get their stay. And that is exploiting the system. And it is not supposed to be done. But at the end of the day, that is a flaw with your Constitution. The way the Constitution was written is what's allowing that to take place. Do you understand? And this is going to mean that Trump needs to rewrite your Constitution, which is never ever supposed to be changed if you respect your ancestors. And what they fought for in terms of freedom. So while I can understand that he's not putting terms and conditions to it, he's not doing away with it altogether. He's putting terms and conditions to it to ensure that at least there is a legal attachment to that birthright, be it that you are a citizen or you are a member of the defense forces, as in a veteran. That makes sense, or you have lawful stay. Something has to be there that's legal, but you can't have two illegal people having a baby in the States and then getting their citizenship through that child, because then they come across with the intention of finding a fast track route to becoming a citizen, and they use having a baby as that fast track route. I get it. It is exploiting the system, right? But yes, he is not. Yeah, he is not. He is defining it. So as I said, the reason why that was allowed to happen was because of how the Constitution was written. So that's why you ended up with that exploitation. So it does make sense for him to actually define it and to make it more specific. But it's still a shame, because I would like to ask the question, how many would have been born on the soil there that turned out to be amazing contributors to America's history? That would be a nice bit of research for me to do, just to see if somebody that has made significant contributions to the American society and American history was actually born of undocumented parents and became an American citizen in their own right. I'm just wondering. People are important resources. And at the end of the day, what I don't like isn't that part per se, because I think it makes sense. Because I know for a fact that I know of Africans who literally used to travel to the United States just to have a baby. That would then for them guarantee that that child would get an American passport. and then be able to travel there in order to go to school, or even for them to go there and get healthcare. So I do know that that was a whole thing that was planned, right? Women would travel when, they're nearly ready to pop, just to get their citizenship that way. Um, so I do know that that was a thing, okay? But I don't understand the complete dismissal of DEI initiatives. I think that while I appreciate that he wants to build a sense of patriotism that goes beyond recognizing your difference as a part of the whole, it almost feels like a dismissal of all the efforts of these cultural and societal groups and how they have struggled to be recognized. It's like you are completely rewriting history and erasing it. He's making American history, which it should be. This has gotten so ridiculous. Well, these exclusion from American society. Okay, and I am willing to listen to this. Hold on a minute. Let me put this here. It's nice when you have somebody who's on the opposite side talking. So Veronica, you're talking to Veronica. He's getting rid of all of it and making it American history, in which it should be. It has gotten so ridiculous with all these exclusions from American society. Now, remember that they haven't actually specified how this is going to get done. People are still looking for clarity, even within the government itself. So the only way this is not going to cause civil unrest, is if he's saying that all of these histories, all of these significant things are going to be maintained within the curriculum and acknowledged that way, and that within people's households they are free to celebrate whatever they wish to celebrate, but it will not be extended to the point of a state funded event, and it's not going to be extended to the point where there will be school holidays to mark it. So if you know that you want to celebrate MLK Day, and MLK Day falls on let's say he didn't make it a public holiday anymore, and you want to celebrate it, and it fell on a Monday, you're going to have to either celebrate it the Sunday before with your family, or you're going to celebrate it on the Saturday. So if my family decides to celebrate something that's no longer going to be funded, but I'm still celebrating it, isn't that going to segregate me still from my neighbor? Aren't I going to end up having some neighbors giving me funny looks and going, "What is that about? Why are you still celebrating MLK Day? It's America. You should be doing America Day. And America Day includes all of you. So why do you need to do something different?" Do you think there's still going to be division? Do you think there's still going to be a silencing of people wanting to celebrate something that is specific to who they are, the fabric of their being? My experience as a Black person is not going to be the same experience as a white person, even though we are both the citizens of the same country. Yeah? So how is that going to be just erased so that everybody feels unified? Because unification of a people is not just about removing events. There are deep-seated institutional barriers to people of different races. So somebody says, he's a racist, period. We had to memorize, let me just put this here. We had to memorize the Emancipation of Proclamation as a requirement in elementary. And I'm so happy that they did that for us. We are American and will no longer allow others to shame us otherwise. And that is good. That is good. And it's good to be American. But I still think that it's also good to recognize that you've got different pathways to becoming American, that all these different people had to work for in order to create that fabric. And I don't think it's okay to just erase that. I really don't. Are you guys not hearing again? Has the sound gone? Unified, but not unified in the schools and workplace. Exactly. If you're not an indigenous Indian, you're not a real American. You're also an immigrant. Absolutely. Did you see his press conference yesterday? I did. I did. It was disturbing. It was. And then to blame those deaths on DEI. I don't know, that was quite a sweeping stereotype. I don't know what happened there, but I could not connect with that rationale. Tell me what errors the person made. Um, Tell me that there was somebody else who was better for the job. Yes, but you're hearing quite fine. Okay, it must be that person's. Okay, great. They wanted to completely replace the people whose ancestors built this country, who are now at 4% of the American population, continue to give our rights to them. You were okay with it? No. No, I'm not okay with it. But if you're going to look at, okay, and I'm glad you said whose ancestors built the country, um, because at the end of the day, you may have done the building up, but white America has done that on the backs of indigenous people. On the backs of indigenous people. And indigenous people are now also having their day completely erased. And I don't believe that ought to be done. I'm sorry. I'm not Indian, but I can understand that they would be greatly and hugely offended by this. All right, the cowboy and Indian scenario is literally a case of colonization under extreme circumstances of near genocide. So, when we're talking about the people who built, um, yes, modernization was brought through white communities who came here from Europe, but essentially all of your ancestors were originally migrants anyway. And here it is that a land of migrants who colonized the original Americans are now erasing the original Americans' acknowledgement from history, um, and making it seem like they were just American to begin with, and that you didn't literally remove them as natives. So I'm sorry. It's there's so much there that needs to be broken down for me to consider this to be an honorable move by your president. I need more detail. So I'm not going to judge him too harshly yet, but it's sending off alarm bells in my head, and I'm certain it's sending off alarm bells in the heads of my graduates who are looking on, right? And we're looking on globally. A lot of us are from not just America, but Canada and the UK and Jamaica. And this sounds like an infringement on your human rights for representation to me. So let's see how it's let's see how it pans out. Okay, let's see how it pans out. So this person says, who is it? KM Press, JM Press says, so we must strip ourselves of our own identity just to fit into white America, who's not doing anything to conform to others. Yeah, basically, basically, that's basically it. PLJ Happy says, there's nothing wrong with recognizing differences in others. All these nationalities are just used to identify landmass. Division is when you use the terms to exclude others. Lovely point. Lovely point. Now, he is indicating that as a result of the segregated groups, the groups, there are segregations, and that there is like an onslaught on American identity through the educational curriculum. I'm going to do another show where we look at the impact of all of these things on the curriculum and what your children are going to get taught. Because trust and believe, all of this is going to have a knock-on effect on the kind of teachings that your children receive in terms of history, the lessons that can be taught in terms of identifying differences and how to react to them, gender and personal and social and health development. That's all all going to change, because you are not going to be talking about all those pronouns, he, she, they, blah, blah, blah. All of that is just going to be he and she. And that America only accepts two genders that were assigned at birth. I'd like to ask the question about what implication that means to those who are born as hermaphrodites. Um, uh, and how do you then assign that law to children who are born with those malformations of the body? There's so many things that needs to be explored with the radical things that the president of the United States is doing to ensure that he makes America great again according to his vision. He calls this the golden age of America, and that no president has ever come in and been as active as he has in the shortest space of time that he has done it. I'm not going to lie, he's definitely been doing a lot in a very short space of time. He means business, and that is for sure. And regardless of whatever we think of Trump, this man is going to go down into history in a significant way. But we are going to basically keep an eye on this and see how it has a ripple effect, especially to us here in Europe, and keep on top of things. But I am going to also be observing over the next few weeks how the American communities are actually going to respond to something like this, especially given that Black History Month is meant to start tomorrow. Anyway, guys, if you have a womb, you're a woman. Okay, that's how they're going to look at it. All right, makes sense in a way. Yeah, it does. So, guys, big up on the nice screen stuff. Thank you so much for attending A Touch of Class with HTK. I've enjoyed having this discussion with you and reasoning with you on this crucial matter, and giving you your updates. Hopefully you have found the live informative and stimulating with different perspectives for you to have a think about. Big up on a nice clean self. Okay? And like up the live on your way out. This is your girl, Head Teacher K, and I'm out. Bye bye.